A single mom dances for a wealthy Arab tycoon to save her son, only to uncover a shocking secret. Before we dive into the story, let us know in the comments, what city are you tuning in from? Enjoy the tale, everyone. Maya, a single mother and refugee living in Qatar, had faced endless struggles. Every day was a battle to put food on the table and shield her 3-year-old son, Sammy, from the crushing weight of poverty. She worked as a waitress in a small cafe popular with tourists, but her earnings barely covered the essentials. When the cafe owner told her he'd have to cut her hours, her heart sank. She needed to find a solution fast, or Sammy would go hungry. One afternoon, while serving tables, Maya noticed a man sitting alone in a corner. He radiated power and mystery. His immaculate white robe and intense gaze caught her attention. She overheard customers whispering his name, Zayed Al-Mansoor, one of Qatar's wealthiest and most enigmatic men. Zayed's eyes never left her. As the cafe closed, an employee handed Maya an envelope. "Mr. Al-Mansoor asked me to give this to you," he said before hurrying off. With trembling hands, Maya opened it. Inside was a brief, direct note. "Asterisk Maya, I have a proposal that could solve your problems. Meet me tomorrow at 8 p.m. at the address below. Come alone, asterisk. Zayed Al-Mansoor." Her heart raced. A proposal from someone as powerful as Zayed could either be the lifeline she desperately needed or the start of something perilous. But with Sammy as her top priority, Maya decided to take the risk. The next evening, after putting Sammy to bed, Maya arrived at the address in the note. It was a grand estate on the outskirts of the city. A butler escorted her to a lavish room, where Zayed was waiting. He greeted her with a slight nod and gestured to a chair across from him. "Maya, thank you for coming," he began, his voice calm and steady. "I've heard about your situation and believe I can help you." Maya sat down, feeling the weight of the moment. "What do you want from me?" she asked bluntly. Zayed leaned forward slightly. "I need a dancer." "A dancer?" Maya frowned, confused. "Yes, for private performances. My guests appreciate art and tradition. In return, I'll offer you a generous amount, enough to ensure you and your son never struggle again." She stayed silent, her heart pounding. The offer seemed straightforward, but she knew a man like Zayed didn't make such proposals without hidden motives. "Why me?" she asked. Zayed's gaze remained steady. "You have something unique, a spark that few possess, and you're beautiful." Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. "What are the conditions?" "Simple. You'll dance only for me and my guests. There will be no physical contact. Everything will remain professional, as outlined in the contract." He slid a document across the table. Maya quickly skimmed the clauses, each one more surreal than the last. She hesitated. The idea of dancing for Zayed and his guests made her uneasy, but the image of Sammy going hungry flashed in her mind. Without overthinking, she grabbed the pen and signed. "Welcome to my world, Maya," Zayed said with a faint smile, a blend of mystery and danger. Maya didn't know it yet, but that contract wouldn't just ensure Sammy's survival. It would change their lives forever. The next evening, Maya found herself back at the estate, caught in a mix of nerves and determination. The weight of the contract felt heavier now that she was about to perform for the first time. Still, the thought of Sammy, safe and sleeping with a full stomach, kept her steady. She was led to a lavish room where traditional dance attire was laid out. An emerald dress with golden embroidery and translucent veils shimmered under the soft glow of the chandeliers. Maya dressed in silence, fastening the anklet bells, their gentle sound filling the room like a prelude. When she was summoned, she followed the butler to a grand hall adorned with luxurious tapestries and Persian rugs. Zayed sat on a sofa, accompanied by 2 guests, both men of distinguished appearance. He gestured slightly with his hand, signaling her to begin. The music started, a soft, hypnotic melody that flowed like the desert wind. Maya took a deep breath and began to move. Her arms glided through the air, the veils floating like waves, while the anklet bells marked the rhythm. Each movement was deliberate, yet naturally graceful. Zayed watched her intently, his face expressionless, but his eyes revealed something deeper. Curiosity, admiration, perhaps even something he himself didn't fully understand. Maya danced not merely out of obligation, but as if she were silently telling a story. With every spin, she remembered her journey to that moment, her struggle for survival, and her love for her son. Her dance embodied both strength and vulnerability, and though she spoke no words, she knew she was making herself understood. When the music ended, Maya gave a respectful bow and waited. The silence was broken by the gentle sound of Zayed's applause. His guests followed suit, offering praise for her performance. "Impressive," Zayed said, rising to his feet. "You've exceeded my expectations, Maya." Despite the compliment, Maya remained composed. "Thank you, Mr. Zayed," she replied firmly. Before leaving, Zayed approached her and spoke in a low, almost confidential tone. "You did well tonight. Keep it up, and this arrangement will benefit us both." Maya simply nodded and left the room, relieved to have completed her first night. Later, as she made her way back to her assigned room, Maya crossed paths with a strikingly imposing woman. Her sharp features and piercing eyes seemed to scrutinize every detail. "So you're Zayed's dancer," the woman said in a cold, sarcastic tone. "I hope you know your place." Maya remained composed. "My place is wherever my son is safe and well-fed." The woman raised an eyebrow, surprised by the firm response. "We'll see how long you last." Maya refused to be intimidated. She knew she'd face opposition, but nothing would deter her from her goal. Back in her room, Maya sat in front of the mirror, carefully removing her accessories. Her reflection revealed a tired but determined woman. Sammy's face came to mind, and she allowed herself a small smile. Downstairs, Zayed was still in the hall, now alone. His gaze lingered on the empty space where Maya had danced just minutes earlier, lost in thought. There was something about her that intrigued him deeply, something he couldn't ignore. The third night came quickly, and Maya was already beginning to grow accustomed to the estate's luxuries. Yet, despite the opulent surroundings, she knew that with every step she took there, she was delving deeper into an unknown and dangerous world. This time, the hall was even more magnificent, illuminated by crystal chandeliers. Zayed, seated at the center, was alone. The absence of guests intrigued her, but she didn't dare ask. She simply adjusted her veils and waited for the music to begin. The first notes played, soft as a desert breeze. Maya began her performance, each movement precise yet fluid. The silence in the room was almost oppressive, broken only by the delicate chime of her ankle bells. Zayed watched her intently, his dark eyes following every spin and every graceful motion. When the music ended, Maya offered her customary bow. Zayed stared at her for a few moments before rising and approaching her. "You dance as if you carry the weight of 1,000 stories," he said in a low voice. Maya swallowed hard. "My story doesn't matter. I'm here to fulfill the contract." Zayed raised an eyebrow, as though he hadn't expected such a direct response. He tilted his head slightly, as if trying to decipher her. "Sometimes, a contract can be more than just words on paper," he murmured before walking away. Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. Those words echoed in her mind as she left the hall, but her thoughts were interrupted when she once again encountered the imposing woman in the corridor. With her cold eyes and cynical smile, the woman blocked Maya's path. "You think you know Zayed? Don't be fooled. He's a man of many secrets." "I'm not interested in his secrets," Maya replied firmly, trying to stay calm. The woman let out a sharp laugh. "Ignorance is dangerous, especially for someone like you." Before Maya could respond, the woman walked away, leaving a heavy air of distrust behind. Later that night, Maya heard footsteps in the hallway outside her room. Curious, she cracked the door open slightly and saw Zed walking toward a secluded wing of the estate. Intrigued, she followed him from a distance, staying hidden in the shadows. He entered a room, but Maya couldn't see inside clearly. However, she could hear fragments of a conversation. Zayed's voice was deep and restrained. "She cannot know, not yet." Maya couldn't catch the rest, but those words planted a seed of doubt in her mind. Who was Zayed really? Why had he chosen her for this role in his life? When Zayed left the room, Maya quickly returned to her quarters, taking deep breaths to calm herself. She knew something was being kept from her, something that could change everything. The next morning, Zayed invited her for an informal meeting in the estate garden. He appeared more relaxed, dressed in light clothing, but his gaze still carried the weight of hidden truths. "Maya," he began as they walked slowly among the flowers, "why did you accept my contract?" She hesitated before answering. "My son means everything to me. No matter what I have to do, I will do it to give him a better life." Zayed nodded, as if he had anticipated her response. "A mother's love is powerful, but I wonder, how much are you willing to sacrifice for him?" Maya stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "Everything, to the very last part of me." They stood in silence for a moment, and Maya noticed a flicker of something in Zayed's expression. Perhaps respect, perhaps something more. "Then I hope you'll never have to prove it," he said, his tone cryptic. Before Maya could ask what he meant, Zayed changed the subject and guided her back to the estate. Later that night, Maya reflected on everything that had happened. She knew Zayed was hiding something, and it unsettled her, but her priority remained Sammy. If staying firm in this contract meant keeping her son safe, she would endure, even if the cost was greater than she anticipated. Outside, Zayed stood by a large window, gazing at the full moon, his hands clasped behind his back. He couldn't deny that Maya was different, someone who challenged his carefully maintained facade of control. She was a reminder that the past never truly stayed buried. As the night wore on, the secrets they both carried became more intertwined, like the veils Maya wore in her dances, delicate yet full of hidden meaning. Maya woke early that morning, but the peace was short-lived. As she adjusted the scarf over her hair in front of the mirror, a sharp knock echoed through the door. Before she could respond, Leila entered without permission, her gaze cold and unforgiving. "I see you've adapted quickly to this place," Leila said, crossing her arms. "But don't be fooled. You're nothing more than a disposable piece in Zayed's game." Maya took a deep breath, refusing to react to the venom in the woman's words. "Whatever his reasons are, they're none of your concern." Leila stepped closer, narrowing her eyes. "You think you know who he is, but you're chasing an illusion. Zayed will never let someone like you get close to him." Maya held her gaze, feeling a quiet anger rise within her. "I don't want to get close to Zayed. I'm here for my son's sake, nothing more." Leila's sarcastic laugh echoed through the room. "We'll see how long that lie holds." Later, Maya tried to focus on her dance lessons. The choreographer, a stern woman, corrected every movement with precision, yet Leila's constant presence loomed like a shadow, her words echoing in Maya's mind. But Maya knew she couldn't afford to falter. Each perfected move was one step closer to ensuring Sammy's safety. That evening, Zayed hosted an intimate dinner for a select few guests. Maya was summoned to perform again. The hall was adorned with candles, their warm glow illuminating the faces of those present. Leila was there, her triumphant expression suggesting she had something planned. Maya began to dance, focusing on every movement. The music filled the hall, creating an almost magical atmosphere. But as she twirled, her eyes met Zayed's. There was something in his gaze that unsettled her, something that seemed to see beyond the dancer before him. When the performance ended, the guests applauded politely, but Leila rose and walked over to Zayed, ignoring Maya entirely. "A beautiful display, wasn't it?" she remarked, her smile cold. "Yes, it was," Zayed replied calmly. Though his eyes remained on Maya, Leila noticed and pressed her lips together. "I hope you know what you're doing, cousin. A woman like her doesn't belong in this world." Zayed turned to Leila, his expression hardening. "And what world is that? A world where we judge without understanding? Maya has more dignity than many who walk through these doors." Leila fell silent, but her anger was evident. She left the hall, leaving behind a heavy tension in the air. In the following days, Maya tried to avoid Leila whenever possible, but the woman always seemed to be lurking nearby. One night, Maya found a letter slipped under her door. The message was short and threatening. Asterisk, be careful who you trust. Your secret could cost you dearly. Asterisk. Maya felt her stomach turn. She knew Leila was behind it, but she couldn't understand how the woman had discovered so much about her. Determined to protect Sammy, Maya went straight to Zayed. He was in his study, surrounded by piles of documents, but he looked up as soon as she entered. "I need to speak with you," Maya said firmly. "Of course," Zayed replied, gesturing for her to sit. Maya hesitated, but decided to get straight to the point. "Your cousin Leila is trying to threaten me. I don't know what she wants, but I can't allow this to affect my son." Zayed's brow furrowed, his expression hardening. "Leila has no authority here. I will handle her. Can you guarantee that?" Maya challenged, her eyes burning with determination. "Because I won't risk Sammy's safety." Zayed held her gaze for a long moment before responding. "Maya, you have my word. As long as you are under this roof, nothing will happen to you or your son." Despite his firm tone, Maya knew it wouldn't be that simple. Leila wouldn't give up easily. Later that night, Leila met with an unknown man in a secluded corner of the estate. "I want Maya exposed," she said, handing him an envelope. "Do whatever it takes to get her out of here." The man nodded and disappeared into shadows. Leila smiled, convinced that Maya would soon be removed for good. Maya, however, was not one to back down. Her maternal instincts and unwavering determination prepared her for any battle ahead. Zayed, on the other hand, was beginning to see that Maya was no ordinary woman. She had a strength that defied everything around her, including him. At the center of it all, fate seemed to be weaving their lives together in an inescapable bond. Maya adjusted her veils with trembling fingers. Leila's veiled threat still echoed in her mind, but she couldn't let fear take hold. As she walked down the corridor toward the grand hall, she thought of Sammy's face. Every step she took in that luxurious place was for him. Her dance wasn't just a performance. It was an act of survival. When Maya entered the hall, the atmosphere was heavy. Zayed was once again seated alone on his usual divan. The silence was broken only by the soft chime of the bells on her ankles as she took her position. He made a subtle gesture, and the music began, filling the room with a hypnotic melody. Maya's movements were precise, but her heart raced. Her mind struggled to stay in the present, even as the weight of her worries threatened to overwhelm her. For her, the dance was more than just a contract. It was a way to express all the anguish and hope she carried within. Zayed, on the other hand, watched her with unusual focus. He seemed captivated, as though each of her gestures revealed something he had never noticed before. There was a silent connection between them, something Maya couldn't explain but couldn't ignore either. After the dance, Zayed slowly approached her without saying a word. He stopped just a few steps away, his eyes locked on hers. "You're stronger than you seem," he said, his tone both an observation and a compliment. Maya remained silent. She didn't know how to respond. She was there simply to fulfill her part of the agreement. Yet Zayed's intensity unsettled her. "You dance as though you carry the weight of something much greater," he continued. "What gives you that strength?" She hesitated before replying. "My son. He's a reason for everything." Zayed nodded slowly, as if understanding more than she expected. "Sammy is lucky to have you as his mother." Maya looked away, feeling a mix of pride and vulnerability. Before she could respond, Zayed added, "Leila will no longer be a problem. I promise to protect you and your son, and I will keep my word." There was sincerity in his voice, but Maya knew that words alone wouldn't be enough. Leila was dangerous, and she needed to stay one step ahead. Later that night, Maya was urgently called to Sammy's room. The boy had a high fever, and his small body trembled beneath the blankets. Desperate, Maya tried to cool his forehead with a damp cloth, whispering words of comfort. Zayed appeared at the door moments later, alarmed by Maya's distress. "What's going on?" he asked, stepping into the room. "He has a fever," Maya said, her voice trembling. "I need to take him to a doctor." Zayed gestured quickly, summoning one of his assistants. "Prepare the car immediately. We'll take them to the best hospital in the city." Maya looked at Zayed, surprised and grateful. Despite everything, he didn't hesitate to help. Minutes later, they were on their way to the hospital, Maya holding Sammy's small hand the entire time. At the hospital, Sammy was treated promptly, and the doctor reassured them it was nothing serious. "It's just a high fever. He needs rest and plenty of fluids," the doctor said before discharging them. Back at the estate, Maya laid Sammy in bed and sat by his side, watching him sleep. Zayed remained at the door silent, as if respecting the moment. "Thank you," Maya said finally, without turning to face him, "for everything." "There's no need to thank me," Zayed replied. "I did what anyone would do." Maya let out a quiet sigh. Not everyone would. Zayed took a few steps into the room, but stopped before getting too close. "Sammy is important to you. That makes him important to me as well." Maya finally looked at him, puzzled. There was something in his expression she couldn't quite read. Zayed seemed sincere, yet there was also a sadness that didn't match his authoritative demeanor. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked, breaking the silence. Zayed hesitated for a moment before answering. "Perhaps because you remind me of something I lost a long time ago." Those words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Maya didn't know how to respond, but felt that Zayed was, in some way, opening up to her, revealing layers he kept hidden from the rest of the world. That night, Maya barely slept. Zayed's words echoed in her mind, mingling with her own doubts and fears. She knew her position in the state was precarious, but she was also starting to sense that something deeper was unfolding. Meanwhile, downstairs, Zayed remained in his study, his eyes fixed on an old photograph he held in his hands. The image showed a smiling woman holding a small child. He ran his thumb over the woman's face, his eyes filled with memories. "I promised I'd never let this happen again," he murmured to himself before tucking the photo away and turning off the lights. Fate seemed determined to intertwine Maya's and Zayed's lives even further, but what lay ahead would test their strength and convictions. The estate's golden lights reflected off the cold marble walls as Maya walked down the main corridor. Her footsteps echoed, but her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of Sammy and Zayed. Her constant concern for her son's safety now shared space with Zayed's enigmatic words. "You remind me of something I lost." Her thoughts were interrupted when, turning a corner, she came face to face with Leila. Zayed's cousin was dressed elegantly, but her eyes were like blades, sharp and full of disdain. "You've done well to capture Zayed's attention," Leila said with a venomous smile. "But don't be fooled, Maya. He may seem kind, but he's ruthless when it comes to protecting his reputation." "I'm not interested in anyone's approval here," Maya replied, standing firm. "I'm here only for my son." Leila took a step forward, her voice low but laden with menace. "Be careful what you say. You're playing with forces you don't understand." Maya held Leila's gaze, but before she could respond, Zayed appeared in the corridor. His quick stride suggested he had overheard part of the exchange. "Leila," he called, his voice low yet commanding. "May I have a word with you in private?" Maya remained where she was, watching as Leila walked away with Zayed. The tension in the air was palpable. Something significant was about to unfold, and Maya knew it would be wise to stay alert. Zayed led Leila into one of the estate offices and shut the door behind him. His usually composed face now bore an uncharacteristic hardness. "I want you to stop your scheming, Leila," he said, crossing his arms. "I'm only protecting our family," Leila replied, her chin raised defiantly. "Maya is a threat to everything we built." Zayed narrowed his eyes. "Maya is not a threat. She's a woman trying to protect her son, something you clearly don't understand." "She's an outsider," Leila shot back, her voice brimming with anger. "Do you trust her more than your own family?" "I trust her because she's proven her loyalty," Zayed said firmly. "And you've only given me reasons to question yours." Leila's face paled momentarily, but she quickly regained her composure. "If you keep defending her, you'll bring disgrace to our family." "Enough," Zayed cut her off, his voice sharp as a blade. "If you try to harm Maya or Sammy again, I'll have no choice but to remove you from this estate for good." A heavy silence fell between them before Leila abruptly left the room, leaving Zayed alone with his thoughts. Meanwhile, Maya sat in her room with Sammy, who was playing with small wooden blocks Zayed had sent for him. She watched her son but couldn't stop thinking about Zayed. He was a man of many facets, sometimes protective, sometimes distant, yet always shrouded in mystery. When there was a knock at the door, she braced herself for more trouble, but it was Zayed. "May I speak with you?" he asked, remaining at the doorway. Maya nodded, signaling that he could enter. Zayed stepped in but kept a respectful distance. "I want you to know that you're safe here," he said, sincerity in his eyes. "I won't allow Leila or anyone else to threaten you or Sammy." "I appreciate that," Maya replied, folding her arms. "But I can't help wondering why you're so willing to protect us." Zayed sighed, looking away for a moment before meeting her gaze again. "Because you remind me of something I lost," he said, his voice now tinged with emotion. "My wife passed away years ago, and with her, I lost the chance to have a family. But seeing you fight for your son, it reminds me of what truly matters." Maya remained silent, Zayed's words hitting her in an unexpected way. There was something genuine in his confession, something that made her want to believe him. "Thank you," she said softly at last. Zayed gave a faint smile. "Get some rest, Maya. Tomorrow will be an important day." The next morning, Leila, still furious after Zayed's reprimand, schemed in secret. In her room, she reviewed plans with the same mysterious man she had met earlier. "Everything must be perfect," she said, handing him a folder of documents. "I want Maya exposed once and for all." Outside, one of the state guards overheard part of their conversation and quickly reported it to Zayed. Upon hearing the news, Zayed immediately understood that Leila was willing to cross any line to achieve her goals. He knew he had to act before anything more serious happened. By nightfall, Zayed summoned Maya to the main hall. She felt tense but accepted the invitation. As soon as she entered, Zayed approached her with determination in his eyes. "Maya, I want you to know that you are not alone in this fight," he said firmly. "I will make sure nothing happens to you or Sammy." Maya looked at him, feeling the weight of his words. "I hope you're right, Zayed, because I've already lost everything once. I can't lose my son." Zayed nodded. "And I won't let that happen." That night marked the beginning of a new battle, where loyalties would be tested and secrets would finally come to light. The estate was cloaked in an unsettling calm. After ordering that Leila be placed under surveillance, Zayed went to the reading room, a place where memories often haunted him. Maya, meanwhile, sat in her room, burdened by a tension she couldn't quite explain. Something inside her told her she was on the verge of uncovering truths that could change everything. Later that evening, Zayed sent a note asking Maya to meet him in the main hall. When she arrived, he stood by a large fireplace, his eyes fixed on flames. "Maya, thank you for coming," he said without looking away from the fire. "Why did you call me?" she asked, crossing her arms. Zayed turned slowly, his expression serious. "There are things you need to know. My past, my losses. They weigh more heavily on us than you realize." Maya frowned, confused. "If it's something that could affect us, I believe I have the right to know." He nodded and gestured for her to sit. "Years ago, I lost my wife in an accident. It was a moment that shattered everything I thought was secure. Since then, I've shut myself off from the world, refusing to let anyone get close. But then you came along." Maya felt a chill but stayed silent, listening intently. "You are not just a dancer in my estate, Maya. You brought something I thought I had lost forever. Hope," Zayed continued, his voice softer. "The way you fight for Sammy. It reminds me of what truly matters in life. I see my own struggles in yours, but I also see a strength I have long since lost." "Why are you telling me all this now?" Maya asked, trying to process the weight of his words. Zayed stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Because to protect you and your son, I need you to trust me completely. And for that, you need to know the whole truth." Maya stayed silent as Zayed went on. He revealed that his wife's death had not been just an accident, but the result of intrigue within his own family. This explained why he kept Leila under surveillance, and why he was so determined to protect Maya. "My family never accepted my wife. She didn't come from a noble social circle, and to them, that was unacceptable," Zayed said, his voice heavy with bitterness. "We paid the price for defying them, and she lost her life." Maya felt a lump in her throat. She had never imagined that Zayed carried such deep pain. "And now you think Leila will do the same to me?" "It's not a matter of thinking, Maya." "I know," Zayed replied. "She has already shown she's willing to go to any lengths to get rid of you. That's why you must always be on guard. Trust no one but me. Zayed's words hung in the air, filled with intensity. Maya felt torn. On one hand, she wanted to believe he was being sincere. On the other, trusting him meant placing her fate in the hands of a man who still harbored many secrets. The next morning, Maya decided to seek answers on her own. After ensuring Sammy was safe, she walked through the estate to the secluded wing where Zayed kept personal documents and belongings. She needed to learn more about the man who had promised to protect her family. Entering the room, Maya found a photo album on the table. It contained images of Zayed alongside a smiling woman and a young boy. The happiness on their faces contrasted sharply with the serious expression Zayed wore now. As she flipped through the album, a letter fell out. Maya picked it up and read the handwritten words. It was a farewell message from Zayed's wife, written shortly before her death. Asterisk, my dear Zayed, I know our love will face storms, but never forget what we built together. Protect our family, even if it costs everything. With eternal love, Amal, asterisk. Tears filled Maya's eyes as she read. At last, she understood the burden Zayed carried. He wasn't just protecting her. He was trying to atone for a failure he hadn't been able to prevent in the past. Later, Zayed found Maya sitting quietly in the garden. He approached her slowly, aware that something had changed. You read the letter, Zayed said bluntly. Maya simply nodded. Now I understand why you do what you do, but even so, it doesn't change the fact that we're caught in a dangerous game. Zayed sighed, sitting down beside her. I don't want you to go through what Amal went through. I don't want to lose anyone else. Then what do we do now? Maya asked, her eyes filled with determination. Zayed looked toward the horizon where the sun was beginning to set. We fight, and we won't let anyone take away what's ours. That night, Maya felt more confident. For the first time, she saw Zayed not as a distant and enigmatic man, but as someone who carried the same pain and strength as she did. Despite the dangers, she felt that together, they could overcome any obstacle. While Maya put Sammy to bed, Zayed, in another part of the estate, began devising a plan. He knew Leila still had tricks up her sleeve, but he was ready to do whatever it took to protect Maya and Sammy. The pieces were in motion, and fate would soon test them all. Maya woke with a sense of unease. The estate, usually serene in the morning, seemed cloaked in a heavy tension. As she dressed, she heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. Opening the door, she found a maid with a pale face who warned her, Miss Leila is planning something. Be careful. The tension in the air was palpable, but Maya forced herself to stay calm. She knew Leila wouldn't give up easily, and the only thing she could do was be prepared for whatever might come. Later, Zayed summoned Maya to his office. He was seated behind a dark wooden desk, surrounded by documents. His eyes, usually calm, now reflected a concern he tried to conceal. I've received information that Leila is using her influence to discredit you, Zayed said plainly. She's handed over a dossier to the local authorities, accusing you of dishonoring traditions and tarnishing the state's reputation. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her. This could put me in danger, and Sammy too. I know, Zayed replied, his voice steady, but I've already taken measures. I need you to trust me. Trust isn't something I can give so easily, Maya countered, bitterness in her tone. Zayed leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. I know it's hard, but you're not alone in this. I will protect you, Maya, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, in another part of the estate, Leila walked down the corridor with a man whose appearance was unassuming but dangerous. She led him to a private room where she placed a thick envelope in his hands. Do whatever is necessary, she ordered. I want Maya out of this estate by the end of the week. The man nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Leila smiled, convinced her plan was about to succeed. That night, Maya felt restless. Something inside her urged her to act before it was too late. She decided to confront Leila directly, knowing full well the risk involved. After ensuring Sammy was safe, she walked down the corridor to Leila's quarters. Upon entering, she found a woman seated in front of a mirror, adjusting her sparkling jewelry. I see you've come confront me, Leila said, not even turning around. Why are you doing this? Maya asked, her voice heavy with emotion. Leila finally stood, turning to face her. Because you don't belong here. Zayed is my family, and you're just an intruder, pulling him away from his true responsibilities. I'm not here for Zayed, Maya replied, anger spilling into her words. I'm here for my son, trying to survive. This has nothing to do with you. Leila stepped forward, her gaze cold. Everything that happens under this roof involves me, and I will not let you ruin our reputation with your presence. Before Maya could respond, the door to the room burst open. Zayed entered, his eyes blazing with fury. Leila, enough! He roared, his voice echoing through the room. Leila froze, clearly startled by her cousin's sudden arrival. Zayed advanced until he was face to face with her. If I find out you've taken any further action against Maya or Sammy, you will be banished from this estate. And this time, there will be no second chances. Leila pressed her lips together, but said nothing. Zayed then turned to Maya. Come, it's not safe for you here. Maya hesitated, but followed him. As they walked through the corridors, Zayed explained, Leila is out of control. I need to deal with her once and for all. And how do you plan to do that? Maya asked, her concern evident. Zayed stopped and turned to her. I'm going to convene the family council. They need to know just how far Leila is willing to go. In the meantime, I want you to stay away from her. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the estate grew even more tense. Leila appeared more reserved, but Maya knew it was merely the calm before the storm. Zayed was constantly preoccupied, preparing for the council meeting. One evening, Maya was summoned to main hall for an urgent meeting with Zayed. When she arrived, she found him standing beside two men who appeared to be members of the family council. They were speaking in low voices but fell silent when they saw her. Maya, I want you to meet Mr. Abbas and Mr. Rashid, Zayed said, introducing the men. They are members of the council and are here to evaluate the situation. Maya greeted them but felt a chill run down her spine. Abbas' scrutinizing gaze seemed to pierce right through her, while Rashid maintained a neutral expression. We're here to ensure that everything is resolved fairly, Abbas said in a stern voice. We trust that you'll cooperate. Maya simply nodded, aware that every word and gesture she made would be scrutinized. While Zayed and the council discussed the next steps, Leila was plotting her final move. In a secluded room, she reviewed incriminating documents that could be used against Maya. Her plan was straightforward. Deliver the information directly to the authorities, ensuring Maya's expulsion from the country, and hopefully separating her from Sammy forever. But Zayed had anticipated this move. He sent one of his trusted men to intercept the documents before they could reach the wrong hands. When Leila discovered this, she was furious, but there was nothing more she could do without fully exposing herself. The next morning, Zayed summoned everyone to the grand hall. The family council was present, as were Leila and Maya. The tension in the room was almost tangible as Zayed stepped to the center, his posture rigid and commanding. It's time to resolve this once and for all, he said firmly. Leila has acted against Maya and Sammy, jeopardizing the safety and honor of this estate. Leila tried to defend herself, but Zayed raised his hand, silencing her. There is no room for your excuses, he continued. You have violated the trust of our family and endangered lives. The council will decide your fate. Maya watched silently as the council members deliberated. Finally, Abbas stood and declared, We agree that Leila must be removed from the estate. Her actions are unacceptable, and the family's safety must take precedence. Furious, Leila stormed out of the hall, without looking back. Zayed exhaled, relieved, and approached Maya. You're safe now, he said. But Maya knew that, even with Leila gone, the challenges were far from over. Maya awoke in the middle of the night to a strange noise coming from the hallway. Her heart raced as she got up and carefully opened the door to peek out. Two men in dark uniforms were approaching, followed by Leila, who wore a cold smile. Before Maya could close the door, they spotted her. Maya Roshan, one of the men said, his voice firm. You are being summoned to answer to the authorities. What am I being accused of? Maya asked, alarmed but maintaining her composure. Violating the morality laws of this country. The man replied without expression. You need to come with us. Before Maya could respond, Zayed appeared in the hallway. His fury was palpable, and his commanding presence made the men hesitate. "What is the meaning of this?" Zayed demanded, his voice like thunder. "We've received a formal complaint," one of the officials explained. "We're just following orders." Zayed stepped closer, his dominant stance intimidating the men. "Who authorized this action? I want to see the documents." The officer handed Zayed a document, which he quickly scanned, his eyes narrowing with each line. He knew this was Leila's doing, even though her name didn't appear anywhere on it. "This is absurd," Zayed declared, tearing the paper in half. "Maya is my guest, and no one will lay a hand on her while she's under my roof." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but Leila stepped forward. "The law is above any hospitality, Zayed," she said with a malicious smile. "You can't protect her forever." "Enough, Leila," Zayed roared, his voice echoing through the hallway. "You've done enough to harm Maya. If you continue with this madness, you'll face the consequences." The officers, sensing Zayed's unwavering stance, decided to withdraw for now, though they made it clear the investigation would continue. That night, Zayed gathered his trusted men. "Leila has gone too far," he said, pacing in his study. "She's willing to destroy Maya just to get to me." "What should we do?" one of the men asked. Zayed stopped and looked out the window. "We need to find something that will completely expose her. Something that will prove to the authorities that the accusations against Maya are false, and that Leila is the real culprit." Meanwhile, Maya was in her room, trying to soothe Sammy, who had woken up frightened by the commotion. "Mommy's here," she whispered, holding him close. "Nothing will happen to us." But deep down, Maya felt that danger was closer than ever. She knew Zayed was doing everything possible to protect them, but she also knew Leila wouldn't stop until she was destroyed. The next morning, Maya was summoned to the main hall. Zayed was waiting for her, his expression serious. "We need to talk," he said, gesturing to a chair. Maya sat down, feeling the weight of what was to come. "What happened?" "The authorities are still investigating," Zayed explained, "but Leila is playing dirty. She submitted falsified documents and accusations that could complicate your situation further. What if they believe her?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "Sammy, is he in danger?" Zayed closed his eyes for a moment before answering. "I promise nothing will happen to him, but we need to be strategic. We'll face this together." As Maya tried to stay calm, Zayed continued his investigation. He knew Leila had fabricated evidence, but he needed something concrete to prove it. With the help of his contacts, he intercepted a message Leila had sent to the man working for her. The message was clear. Asterisk, make sure Maya is formally charged. If necessary, plan evidence. Asterisk. With this in hand, Zayed knew he had the upper hand. He arranged a meeting with the authorities to expose Leila and protect Maya. Hours before the meeting, Maya was approached by officers again. This time, they arrived with a formal arrest warrant. Zayed tried to intervene, but the men were determined to take her. "Please, take care of Sammy," Maya said to Zayed as she was escorted out of the estate. "Promise me he'll be safe." "I promise," Zayed replied, his face grim. Maya was taken to a local prison, a cold and desolate place. Her cell was small, with a metal bed and a tiny window that let in only a sliver of light. She sat on the thin mattress, struggling to hold back her tears. Outside, Zayed sprang into action. He gathered the documents incriminating Leila and presented them to the authorities. The case took an unexpected turn when Leila was summoned to testify. Furious, she tried to deny everything, but the evidence was undeniable. "You attempted to frame an innocent woman," Zayed said during the hearing. "And for that, you will be held accountable." The authorities decided to release Maya while they conducted a deeper investigation into Leila's actions. Zayed went personally to retrieve her from the prison. When Maya emerged from her cell, she saw Zayed waiting for her. He looked relieved, though concern still lingered in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, gently taking her arm. "Yes," Maya replied, though her voice was weak. "And Sammy?" "He's safe," Zayed assured her. "Let's go home." On the way back to the estate, Maya remained silent, trying to process everything that happened. When they arrived, Sammy ran into her arms, and Maya held him tightly, silently vowing to do whatever it took to protect him. Zayed watched the scene from a distance, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. But he knew the battle wasn't over yet. Leila would face justice, and he would do everything in his power to ensure Maya and Sammy could live in peace. The next morning began quietly, but Maya still felt the weight of the past few days. Though she was back in the estate, Leila's looming threat hung over her. Sammy played in the garden under the supervision of one of the maids, while Maya walked slowly through corridors. She was summoned to the main hall, where Zayed was waiting for her. He sat in an armchair near the window, gazing out at the distant desert. When Maya entered, he stood, his posture tense. "We need to talk," he said, his voice firm yet calm. Maya nodded and sat in a nearby chair. "About what?" Zayed took a deep breath before speaking. "Since you arrived at the estate, your presence has affected me in ways I didn't expect." Zayed was constantly preoccupied, preparing for the council meeting. One evening, Maya was summoned to the main hall for an urgent meeting with Zayed. When she arrived, she found him standing beside two men who appeared to be members of the family council. They were speaking in low voices but fell silent when they saw her. "Maya, I want you to meet Mr. Abbas and Mr. Rashid," Zayed said, introducing the men. "They are members of the council and are here to evaluate the situation." Maya greeted them but felt a chill run down her spine. Abbas' scrutinizing gaze seemed to pierce right through her, while Rashid maintained a neutral expression. "We're here to ensure that everything is resolved fairly," Abbas said in a stern voice. "We trust that you'll cooperate." Maya simply nodded, aware that every word and gesture she made would be scrutinized. While Zayed and the council discussed the next steps, Leila was plotting her final move. In a secluded room, she reviewed incriminating documents that could be used against Maya. Her plan was straightforward: deliver the information directly to the authorities, ensuring Maya's expulsion from the country, and, hopefully, separating her from Sammy forever. But Zayed had anticipated this move. He sent one of his trusted men to intercept the documents before they could reach the wrong hands. When Leila discovered this, she was furious, but there was nothing more she could do without fully exposing herself. The next morning, Zayed summoned everyone to the grand hall. The family council was present, as were Leila and Maya. The tension in the room was almost tangible as Zayed stepped to the center, his posture rigid and commanding. "It's time to resolve this once and for all," he said firmly. "Leila has acted against Maya and Sammy, jeopardizing the safety and honor of this estate." Leila tried to defend herself, but Zayed raised his hand, silencing her. "There is no room for your excuses," he continued. "You have violated the trust of our family and endangered lives. The council will decide your fate." Maya watched silently as the council members deliberated. Finally, Abbas stood and declared, "We agree that Leila must be removed from the estate. Her actions are unacceptable, and the family's safety must take precedence." Furious, Leila stormed out of the hall, without looking back. Zayed exhaled, relieved, and approached Maya. "You're safe now," he said. But Maya knew that, even with Leila gone, the challenges were far from over. Maya woke in the middle of the night to a strange noise coming from a hallway. Her heart raced as she got up and carefully opened the door to peek out. Two men in dark uniforms were approaching, followed by Leila, who wore a cold smile. Before Maya could close the door, they spotted her. "Maya Roshan," one of the men said, his voice firm. "You are being summoned to answer to the authorities." "What am I being accused of?" Maya asked, alarmed but maintaining her composure. "Violating the morality laws of this country." The man replied without expression, "You need to come with us." Before Maya could respond, Zayed appeared in the hallway. His fury was palpable, and his commanding presence made the men hesitate. "What is the meaning of this?" Zayed demanded, his voice like thunder. "We've received a formal complaint," one of the officials explained. "We're just following orders." Zayed stepped closer, his dominant stance intimidating the men. "Who authorized this action?" "I want to see the documents." The officer handed Zayed a document, which he quickly scanned, his eyes narrowing with each line. He knew this was Leila's doing, even though her name didn't appear anywhere on it. "This is absurd," Zayed declared, tearing the paper in half. "Maya is my guest, and no one will lay a hand on her while she's under my roof." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but Leila stepped forward. "The law is above any hospitality, Zayed," she said with a malicious smile. "You can't protect her forever." "Enough, Leila," Zayed roared, his voice echoing through the hallway. "You've done enough to harm Maya. If you continue with this madness, you'll face the consequences." The officers, sensing Zayed's unwavering stance, decided to withdraw for now, though they made it clear the investigation would continue. That night, Zayed gathered his trusted man. "Leila has gone too far," he said, pacing his study. "She's willing to destroy Maya just to get to me." "What should we do?" one of the men asked. Zayed stopped and looked out the window. "We need to find something that will completely expose her. Something that will prove to the authorities that the accusations against Maya are false and that Leila is the real culprit." Meanwhile, Maya was in her room, trying to soothe Sammy, who had woken up frightened by the commotion. "Mommy's here," she whispered, holding him close. "Nothing will happen to us." But deep down, Maya felt that danger was closer than ever. She knew Zayed was doing everything possible to protect them, but she also knew Leila wouldn't stop until she was destroyed. The next morning, Maya was summoned to the main hall. Zayed was waiting for her, his expression serious. "We need to talk," he said, gesturing to a chair. Maya sat down, feeling the weight of what was to come. "What happened?" "The authorities are still investigating," Zayed explained, "but Leila is playing dirty. She submitted falsified documents and accusations that could complicate your situation further." "What if they believe her?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "Sammy, is he in danger?" Zayed closed his eyes for a moment before answering. "I promise nothing will happen to him, but we need to be strategic. We'll face this together." As Maya tried to stay calm, Zayed continued his investigation. He knew Leila had fabricated evidence, but he needed something concrete to prove it. With the help of his contacts, he intercepted a message Leila had sent to the man working for her. The message was clear. Asterisk, make sure Maya is formally charged. If necessary, plant evidence. Asterisk. With this in hand, Zayed knew he had the upper hand. He arranged a meeting with the authorities to expose Leila and protect Maya. Hours before the meeting, Maya was approached by officers again. This time, they arrived with a formal arrest warrant. Zayed tried to intervene, but the men were determined to take her. "Please, take care of Sammy," Maya said to Zayed as she was escorted out of the estate. "Promise me he'll be safe." "I promise," Zayed replied, his face grim. Maya was taken to a local prison, a cold and desolate place. Her cell was small, with a metal bed and a tiny window that let in only a sliver of light. She sat on the thin mattress, struggling to hold back her tears. Outside, Zayed sprang into action. He gathered the documents incriminating Leila and presented them to the authorities. The case took an unexpected turn when Leila was summoned to testify. Furious, she tried to deny everything, but the evidence was undeniable. "You attempted to frame an innocent woman," Zayed said during the hearing. "And for that, you will be held accountable." The authorities decided to release Maya while they conducted a deeper investigation into Leila's actions. Zayed went personally to retrieve her from the prison. When Maya emerged from her cell, she saw Zayed waiting for her. He looked relieved, though concern still lingered in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, gently taking her arm. "Yes," Maya replied, though her voice was weak. "And Sammy?" "He's safe," Zayed assured her. "Let's go home." On the way back to the estate, Maya remained silent, tried to process everything that had happened. When they arrived, Sammy ran into her arms, and Maya held him tightly, silently vowing to do whatever it took to protect him. Zayed watched the scene from a distance, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. But he knew the battle wasn't over yet. Leila would face justice, and he would do everything in his power to ensure Maya and Sammy could live in peace. The next morning began quietly, but Maya still felt the weight of the past few days. Though she was back in the estate, Leila's looming threat hung over her. Sammy played in the garden under the supervision of one of the maids, while Maya walked slowly through the corridors. She was summoned to the main hall, where Zayed was waiting for her. He sat in an armchair near the window, gazing out at the distant desert. When Maya entered, he stood, his posture tense. "We need to talk," he said, his voice firm yet calm. Maya nodded and sat in a nearby chair. "About what?" Zayed took a deep breath before speaking. "Since you arrived at the estate, your presence has affected me in ways I didn't expect." Zayed and Fareed worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Leila, while Maya did her best to keep Sammy distracted and away from the turmoil. Finally, one afternoon, Fareed brought good news. "We intercepted a crucial message," he told Zayed. "We now have enough evidence to expose Leila." Zayed immediately called for a family council meeting. Maya was invited to attend, knowing that her life and Sammy's were at stake. In the main hall, the council members were gathered, their expressions solemn. Zayed presented the evidence Fareed had collected, including messages that revealed Leila's malicious intentions. Leila has endangered not only Maya and Sammy, but also the reputation of this estate, Zayed declared. Her actions are unforgivable. The council reviewed the evidence, and it didn't take long for them to reach a decision. Leila was to be officially banished from the estate and handed over to the authorities to answer for her crimes. Maya felt immense relief as she heard the verdict. At last, the threat was being eliminated. Leila was escorted out of the estate under the watchful eyes of the guards. Her expression was a mix of fury and humiliation, but she offered no resistance. As the doors closed behind her, Maya felt as though a tremendous weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Zayed approached her, his eyes reflecting both relief and determination. "Now you and Sammy can finally have peace," he said with a gentle smile. Maya nodded, moved. "Thank you, Zayed, for everything." "I only did what was right," he replied, "and I'll do whatever it takes to ensure you both remain safe from now on." That night, Maya sat on the balcony of her room, gazing at the stars. For the first time in a long while, she felt a genuine sense of calm. Sammy slept peacefully, and Zayed had kept his promise to protect them. Yet Maya knew that the future might still hold challenges. The following days brought a tranquility Maya hadn't felt in ages. Leila had been banished from the estate, and Zayed had fulfilled his promise of ensuring her and Sammy's safety. Still, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was on the horizon. One morning, while having coffee on the terrace, Zayed approached, looking more relaxed than usual. He held a small envelope in his hands, his eyes carrying a peculiar glimmer. "Maya," he began, handing her the envelope. "I want you to read this." Maya opened the envelope and found a handwritten letter. The words, though simple, carried an emotional weight. It was a formal message from Zayed, offering her the freedom to leave the estate with Sammy if she wished. "Why are you giving me this?" she asked, confused. "I want you to know that you've never been a prisoner here," Zayed explained. "You are free to choose what's best for you and your son. But I also want you to know that if you decide to stay, this estate will always be your home." Maya looked at Zayed, feeling a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "What if I don't know what the best choice is?" Zayed stepped closer, his eyes meeting hers. "Then I ask you to trust me, not just as someone who promised to protect you, but as someone who deeply cares about you." As Maya pondered Zayed's words, Sammy played in the garden, laughing and running with small wooden airplanes Zayed had commissioned for him. The scene was simple, but filled with meaning. Maya knew Sammy was safe here, something she had never been able to ensure elsewhere. Yet the thought of depending on Zayed still unsettled her. She had always fought alone, and allowing someone to become such an integral part of her life was new and daunting. That evening, Zayed arranged a special dinner on the terrace. The table was adorned with flowers and candles, and a gentle breeze made the atmosphere even more inviting. Maya hesitated to accept the invitation, but eventually decided to go. "Why all this?" she asked as she sat down. "I want to celebrate the fact that we're finally free from threats," Zayed replied with a sincere smile. "And more importantly, I want to celebrate you and Sammy." Maya couldn't help but smile. As cautious as she was, she couldn't deny that Zayed made everything feel lighter. As the evening progressed, they talked about everything: their lives before meeting each other, the challenges they had faced, and the dreams they still held. For the first time, Maya felt she could truly trust Zayed. "I know it's early to think about the future," Zayed said, breaking a moment of silence. "But I want you to know that no matter what you choose, I'll stand by your side." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. "Thank you, Zayed, for everything." In the days that followed, Maya began exploring new possibilities. She didn't want to simply be protected. She wanted to build something for herself and for Sammy. Zayed, recognizing her determination, encouraged her to pursue whatever would bring her happiness. One morning, he led her to a small hall within the estate that had been in use for years. "I thought you might turn this into something of your own," he suggested. "Maybe a school for Sammy and other children, or a space to teach dance." Maya remained silent, deeply moved by the gesture. She knew Zayed was showing her that she could play an important role here, not just as a guest, but as someone who could contribute meaningfully to this place. "It's beautiful," she finally said. "I'd love to do something like this." As Maya began planning what she would do at the hall, Zayed watched her from a distance. A growing sense of satisfaction filled him. He had always known Maya was strong and determined, but seeing her thrive under his protection warmed his heart. Yet Zayed also knew that challenges still lay ahead. His position in the estate and his connection to Maya could spark new conflicts, and he would need to be ready to face them. One afternoon, as Maya worked in the hall, Sammy came running in, holding a piece of paper. "Mama, look what I drew." Maya took the paper and saw a simple but meaningful drawing. It was of her, Sammy, and Zayed all holding hands, with a bright sun shining above them. "It's beautiful, my love," she said, hugging her son. Zayed, who had just entered the room, smiled as he saw the drawing. "Looks like we're already a family," he remarked playfully. Maya looked at him, and for the first time, she felt that it could truly be possible. The following week, Maya woke with a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The security Zayed provided and Sammy's laughter filled her heart with hope. That morning, as she strolled to the garden, Zayed approached her with a look that blended seriousness and warmth. "Maya, may I steal you away for a few hours a day?" he asked, extending his hand. "Where are we going?" she asked, surprised. "It's a secret," he replied with an enigmatic smile. Zayed took her to the desert, where a hidden oasis seemed to appear out of nowhere. The place was magical, with palm trees swaying gently in the breeze and a lake reflecting the sky. At the center was a table elegantly decorated with white flowers and candles. "Zayed, what is this?" Maya asked, amazed. "I want this moment to be unforgettable," he replied, pulling out a chair for her to sit. During dinner, Zayed spoke about how Maya and Sammy had transformed his life. "Before you, this estate was just an empty structure," he said. "But now it's a home, and I want to make it official." Maya looked at him, puzzled, until Zayed stood and took a small box from his pocket. He knelt down, his eyes fixed on hers. "Maya, from the moment you entered my life, everything changed. You've brought light to my darkest days and shown me the true meaning of love and courage. I want to spend the rest of my life by your side. Will you marry me?" Maya was speechless, tears streaming down her face. With a voice choked with emotion, she replied, "Yes, Zayed, I will." Zayed smiled as he slipped the ring onto her finger, a delicate gold band with a small diamond that sparkled in the sunlight. He stood and pulled her into a tight embrace, followed by a gentle, emotion-filled kiss. The following months were dedicated to wedding preparations. Sammy, excited, took part in every detail. The estate was transformed into a fairy tale setting, with gardens adorned with flower arches and lights that twinkled like stars. On the big day, Maya wore a white gown with intricate gold accents. Her light veil floated in the breeze as she walked down the aisle, accompanied by Sammy, who proudly held her hand. Zayed waited for her at the altar, dressed in a pristine ceremonial tunic. His smile was calm, but his eyes conveyed the deep emotion of the moment. When their eyes met, Maya felt as though the weight of her past had vanished. The officiant recited words of unity, and Zayed slipped a new ring onto Maya's finger. When she did the same for him, a profound sense of wholeness filled them both. After the ceremony, the reception was held in the estate gardens. Guests danced, laughed, and celebrated the couple's union. Maya and Zayed danced beneath the stars while Sammy ran between the tables, handing out small bouquets of flowers. Zayed, Maya whispered as they danced, "Thank you for everything, for giving me a home and a new life." "It's I who should thank you," Zayed replied, his voice filled with emotion. "You brought joy and meaning into my life." Months turned into years, and life at the estate flourished. Maya transformed one wing of the estate into a school for local children, while Zayed dedicated himself to expanding his humanitarian projects. Sammy grew up happy, surrounded by love and security. He loved helping Maya at the school and often accompanied Zayed on some of his trips, learning about responsibility and leadership. Every day, Maya felt that her decision to trust Zayed and accept his love had been the right one. The past, though marked by hardships, had laid the foundation for a future filled with love, hope, and happiness. What did you think of Maya and Zayed's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And don't miss more heartwarming tales by clicking here on the end screen.